and welcome to our budget special. I'm Ritu Singh and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman records setting 7th consecutive budget, focuses on continuity and growth, uses the cushion from a higher dividend from RBI and public sector companies to enhance and introduce certain welfare schemes and incentivize employment generation. Allocation to capex, defence and subsidies remains the same. So does allocation towards Prime Minister Kisan and Manrega. The government continues to aggressively walk the fiscal consolidation talk. Budget 2024 pegs fiscal deficit for FY25 at 4.9% of the GDP against the interim budget's 5.1%. Finance Minister targets a deficit below 4.5% for FY26. Minister Sitharaman proposes hiking short-term capital gains on certain financial assets to 20%. Long-term capital gains tax is hiked to 12.5% on financial and non-financial assets. Finance Secretary Somanathan clarifies that the idea was to bring equity in capital gains taxation. Also rules out further hike to capital gains tax for now. Real estate investments lose the benefit of indexation, which allowed property owners to adjust their gains for inflation. Finance Secretary clarifies that the tax incidence under capital gains without indexation is actually lower and will benefit a lot of people. Adds that indexation benefit will attach to properties bought before 2001. The Finance Minister moves to deepen the tax base by taking advantage of rising retail investor participation in derivatives trading. Proposes to hike securities transaction tax on future contracts to 0.02% and an options contract to 0.1%. The changes will be effective the 1st of October. Big relief for individual taxpayers under the new tax regime. The budget proposes hiking standard deduction to 75,000 rupees from the current 50,000 rupees. Also tweaks tax slabs to lower the overall tax incidence. The Finance Minister says changes will help a salaried employee save up to 17,500 rupees a year in income taxes. At 14.13 lakh crores, the government's gross market borrowing numbers are largely unchanged from those presented in the interim budget. The Finance Minister promises to try and keep the central government's debt on a declining path as a percentage of GDP. Divestment revenues forecast also unchanged at 50,000 crore rupees. A roller coaster ride on Dalal Street as Sensex and Nifty recover in late trade after a sharp drop. Mid-caps and bank stocks see sharper cuts. India's startup ecosystem's long-standing demand to become a reality. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman abolishes the angel tax for all investor classes. Says the move will bolster their entrepreneurial spirit. Startups laud the announcement, expect funding into the sector to go up. E-commerce companies also get a breather. The budget proposes withdrawing the 2% equalization levy on consideration received from e-commerce supply of goods and or services effective the 1st of August. Startups can also breathe easier. The Finance Minister proposes abolishing the angel tax for all classes. Made in India mobile phones, electronics, gold and silver and platinum jewelry may get cheaper. The budget proposes lowering custom duties on a host of input products for these sectors. The budget announces a slew of measures for coalition partners in Andhra Pradesh and Bihar. This includes a 15,000 crore rupee assistance through multilateral agencies to build a new capital in Andhra Pradesh. Bihar will also get 26,000 crores to build highways and promises of additional support to build new airports, medical colleges and sports infrastructure. In other headlines, the Supreme Court declines to scrap the NEET UG exam for aspiring medical students, rules that there is no systemic breach to the sanctity of the exam while admitting to the absence of sufficient material on record. Hindustan Unilever's first quarter numbers beat estimates. Profits rise 2% and domestic volume growth comes in at 4%. The management expects a gradual recovery in rural demand. And Kamala Harris races towards the Democratic Party's nomination for the White House, gets support from enough delegates to clinch the nomination. A new poll shows Harris is outperforming Biden but still trailing Trump by 2 percentage points. Those are the headlines at this hour. Shireen Ban will be joining us with special guests in just a bit. But before we get to them, here are some glimpses of Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presenting her record 7th consecutive budget and the reactions that has evoked.
Short-term gains on certain financial assets shall henceforth attract a tax rate of 20%, while that on long-term gains on all financial and non-financial assets, on the other hand, will attract a tax rate of 12.5%. I propose to abolish the so-called angel tax for all classes of investors. Security transaction tax on futures and options of securities is proposed to be increased to 0.02% and 0.1% respectively. The standard deduction for salaried employees is proposed to be increased from 50,000 to 75,000 rupees. This year, I have provided 11,11,111 crore rupees for capital expenditure.
ये देश के गांव गरीब किसान को समृद्धि की राह पर ले जाने वाला बजट है।
हम लोगों ने एक कह दिया कि विशेष राज्य का दर्जा दीजिए या विशेष अधिकार के लिए मदद दीजिए। यहाँ के लिए जो जरूरत है बिहार के लिए, क्योंकि बिहार को भी आगे बढ़ना है, तो बहुत कुछ किया है, आप जानते हैं।
इस बजट में बिहार फर्स्ट, बिहारी फर्स्ट को भी धरातल पर उतारने के प्रावधान दिए गए।
आंध्रा की बात जब आती है तो उसके लिए तो मैं तहे दिल से शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहूँगा नरेंद्र मोदी जी को, जिन्होंने एक वादा किया था कि आंध्रा की देखभाल हम करेंगे और उन्होंने आज किया है बजट के रूप में।
किसान, गरीब, महिलाएं, युवा और मध्यम वर्ग के कल्याण पर विशेष रूप से ध्यान दिया गया है।
Finance Minister had an opportunity to read the Congress manifesto after the Lok Sabha 2024 elections. She has virtually adopted the ideas underlying our proposals.
There was no mention of Manrega. There was no mention or insufficient mention of any steps taken to improve the income of the ordinary person.
Hello and welcome to the CNBC.